everybody, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney live streams. As you can see, in this stream, we will be starting the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. And I have no idea what's in store for us. So, yeah, let's just hit new game. Bespoke Tailor. I guess that's an achievement I got for putting on the alternate costumes. Yeah, this version gave you alternate costumes if you bought the Switch version, so...
Standing here in the bright sunshine, looking out over the vast ocean. Those days in London seem like a dream. But I do miss my time in England's vast capital. You know, he's flourished into a truly wonderful lawyer. I've no doubt that at this very moment, he's fighting some noble cause in court. Forgive me for taking so long to come to visit you. My life has been such a whirlwind since I returned. And no one could have predicted what has happened. Just 2 months after arriving home.
I find myself faced with another awful crime. Hurricane!
So I came here today to ask something of you. Tomorrow, I shall be standing in court. For the only time in my life. As a lawyer.
Oh!
So please, I ask for your guidance. Kazuma-sama.
Episode 1, The Adventure of the Blossoming Attorney. So she doesn't just want to be a judicial assistant anymore. She wants to be a straight up attorney. All right. 13th August, 8:26 a.m. Supreme Court of Judicature, Defendants, Antechamber 3. Here I am again after 9 months. The Supreme Court of Judicature of Japan. I feel so nervous, but I must steel my nerves and find a way to compose myself. I don't even remember what voice I gave her. It has only been a week! Ah, good, you're here. It doesn't do for a lawyer to be late. Oh, yes, good morning, sir. I hardly recognize you. You got a fine figure, counsel. But you look as white as a sheet, and those wide eyes aren't doing you any favors either. One sec, I'm gonna turn it down on my headset. Oh dear. The truth is, I'm so incredibly nervous. I feel utterly nauseated. Okay, now I'm gonna turn it back up. I almost wish that I had never been born. Goodness, not the sort of thing a father hopes to hear from his daughter, I must say. Eugene Mikotoba, professor of medicine at the Imperial Yume University. A man who, early in his life, traveled to Great Britain to study the latest advances in forensic medical science. And of course, my brilliant father. Excuse me. Oh, hey there. Would I be correct in thinking that you're to be my lawyer in court today? Oh, yes. Yes, that's right, miss. Well, I want to thank you for agreeing to represent me. I swear on my life. It's a complete fabrication, this whole thing! Membami. Born the same year as I, and my greatest friend. Though unusual for a woman in our time, she works at the University Research Laboratory, helping my father. and sadly, she's the defendant in today's trial, accused of committing a truly awful murder. Are you feeling alright? Since we last started talking, you seem, well, to have become a little flushed. Oh my, well, it's just that you look so gallant and dashing. Sorry? And when I fall under your intense gaze, well, it makes me feel rather bashful. I mean, okay. She hasn't realized who I am. It would seem our little plan for this trial is going to work. Oh, what do you mean, Professor Mikotoba? If even your best friend can't see through the disguise, I think we can relax. Disguise? Yes, I've never tried dressing this way before, of course, so I wasn't sure how convincing it would be. Does she have a different, hold on, can I check that? Does she have, like, a different... Oh, I can't check here. I thought it was, like, the same outfit that she wears normally. But maybe they're referencing the alt attire? I didn't think they would do that, actually. Yes, I've never tried dressing this way before, of course, so I wasn't sure how convincing it would be. But this does make me feel a little relieved, as you say, Father. Father? What? Is that you, Susanoo? Oh my god, I just realized how terrible that voice is. I am so sorry. What are you doing? What's going on? What? That varsity uniform, that varsity cap, that varsity cape, that varsity badge. Okay, this is definitely a different attire. Look at you. You look for all the words just like a student of the Imperial Yuma University, a male student. Oh, so that's what she's wearing. Will it show it in the actual, like, courtroom? Because I kind of want to see that, actually. I'm just curious. It means all my preparations have been worthwhile. I woke at 4 this morning to make a start. But I don't understand. Why are you dressed like that? Well, you see... It was the only way. The only way she would be permitted into the Supreme Court to take on your defense in this trial. My defense? Never before in my life have I felt so frustrated at having been born into this body. Courts in Japan are barred to women, which is fucking stupid. We're not even allowed to set foot inside the courtroom, despite the fact that the laws of the land apply to all people, male and female alike. But women are forbidden. Just for today, I'll be leaving my true self at the courtroom door, so that I can act as your lawyer. Oh, Susanoo, you'd go to such lengths for me? Of course, you're my greatest friend. I just worry that I shan't be the lawyer you deserve. Oh no, I have complete faith in you. Hey. It's so strange though. I mean, you're such an accomplished judicial assistant already, and yet just because you're a woman... What a wretched reason! I agree! I mean, why should you be allowed in court? You're so gallant and dashing! Ray? Please don't look at me like that, with those flushed cheeks and dotting eyes. Oh, I'm sorry, it's just... You really do look so dashing. Yes, you mentioned that once or twice. Should I just go back? Should I just go back to my normal voice, considering she's supposed to be pretending to be a guy? I think I'm gonna do that just so I don't have to put on a voice all of the time. You should be pleased. It means you look convincing as a man. I am pleased, I think. It certainly helped to bolster my confidence today. Ray, you're managing to put on a brave face in all this, but I can see through it. I've noticed how your shoulders are slumped and how you're trembling ever so slightly. Susanoo, you do believe me, don't you? I didn't do it. I couldn't have. I mean, murder? Is she an ancestor to Is she an ancestor to the Fays? I can't check the court record. Is she gonna... Are Mia and Maya her descendants? I don't know why, I just kind of have that feeling. You have nothing to worry about. Your conscience is perfectly clean. I forgot I wasn't giving her a voice this case. At least not until later. Isn't that right? Yes. Yes, it is. Perfectly clean. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind about your innocence. Which is why I'll stand by you until the bitter end in this trial. Whatever happens, I'll always be on your side. Because that's what it means to be a defense lawyer. Also, I just realized something. We just had this conversation about how she's pretending to be a man so she can represent her friend in court, because women aren't allowed to be lawyers in Japan at this time. Again, fucking stupid. There are two guards right there. They can just be like, no, we overheard your conversation, no. That means so much to me, Susato. Defendant, counsel! Court is about to begin. Proceed to the courtroom at once. You should go in at once, Ray. If you're late, the judge won't hesitate to pronounce you guilty. Oh! Stand aside! I don't think I've ever seen her run so fast. Well, Susato, you've certainly surprised your father. Going to such lengths to be admitted into the courtroom, and with no prior experience of being a lawyer. There was simply no other way. That's all there is to it. But father... I forgot the voice. You haven't told her, have you? I mean, I'm right in assuming that Ray doesn't know how it came to this. Yes, quite right. I've kept that information from her. It would only worry her if she found out that no other lawyer would agree to take her case. I didn't want to burden her with that. And is it true? The reason why every other lawyer is refusing to take the case? Is it really because of who the victim was? We should be making a move now, too. As you know, law isn't my field, but I'll do what I can to support my student. Thank you, Father. Well, it's good to see he got better. I'm Chisato Mikitova, a judicial assistant. 8 months ago, I accompanied a student of law on a study trip to Great Britain. But 2 months ago, due to unforeseen circumstances, I found myself back in Japan. And that's Ryunosuke's uniform. How many times have I wished that he were here, I wonder. Still, I have no choice now but to steel myself for the trial ahead. Now, are we actually going to see her? I actually do want to see... I'm very curious to see what she looks like in the male student uniform. Or am I going to have to go out into settings and change that for a bit? 13th of August, 9 a.m. Supreme Court of Judicature. Courtroom 1. Nope, she's still in the Altatire. This court is now in session to hear the trial of Ray Membani. Hold on. I'm actually going to save right here. I'm going to save in 2, actually. I'm going to go back to the title and, oh. Special contents. Taylor. There we go.
The prosecution is fully ready to proceed, Your Excellency.
Oh, there she is. Oh, I kind of like this, actually. Defense counsel, are you ready? Yes, Your Excellency. Yes, Your Excellency, we are ready. Ready! Ah, yes, Council. According to your registration details, your name is, Ryutaro Naruhodo? Is that correct? Sorry? Oh yes, I had to come up with a suitable male name for you for this little venture. So I'm afraid to say I simply put down the first name that sprung to mind. Well, Council? Yes, that's right, that's me. Yes, I'm Ryutaro. He who has vowed to uphold the pride of the great Naruhodo clan. Ah. Now she knows how it feels to be Ryunosuke. Look at her eyes. It seems Ryutaro may need to consider how better to uphold his manly act first and not overdo it. And those wild, wide eyes aren't doing you any favors either. Just relax and listen.
Naruhodo? A fresh face in this courtroom, if I'm not mistaken. But the name Naruhodo, would that perchance be...
You may be thinking of Ryunosuke Naruhodo, currently in Britain as part of a study program. This is, his cousin! I don't know, I just... It's instinct at this point to give her that voice. That's right, Ryutaro here has been studying in the provinces, but was called to the capital for this trial. I assure you, in matters of law, his knowledge rivals that of any of Tokyo's preeminent lawyers. Any of them!
Tut tut tut! What a pitiful situation! Having been rejected by every lawyer in the capital, the accused has had to call in a country boy. How dare you! Susanoo is every bit as gallant and dashing as any of your Tokyo attorneys. I won't have you making fun of her.
Idiot! Please be careful, Ray.
What an unrefined tomboy we have here. But I wonder, is your gallant and dashing lawyer up to the challenge of defending you? His wide, skittish eyes very much suggest that he is not.
I'm so nervous. Now that I'm standing in his shoes, I'm starting to understand what Naruhodo-san goes through. Like it or not, eyes want to flick. The case to be heard on this day is a matter of great significance to our national interests. In fact, it would seem. I'm very sorry. It would be reasonable to assume that the outcome of this trial may well affect the very future of our empire.
Just like the trial 9 months ago. And yet for proceedings of such importance, we have this unknown yokel by the dock? Dear me.
Perhaps this would be an appropriate moment for me to address the defense, to determine whether you are sufficiently competent to practice in this courtroom. Can I skip the tutorials? I assume the first trial is going to be the same as it was in the last game. 9 months ago, when a certain other Naruhodo stood where you're standing now, the same judge tested him as well. And even though he was just a student at the time, not even of law, he passed the test with flying colors. For a trained and experienced judicial assistant like you, this will be easy. So, Counsel, do you consent to answering some simple questions? All judges have the same voices. Okay. Alright, it's time to prove myself. You know what, I think I will do the voice when it's her inner monologue. Yes, Your Excellency. But please do make them simple. Very well, to start with, you will state the name of the victim. Ooh, that is simple. I couldn't forget that if I tried. What's the matter?
Now that I'm standing in his shoes, I'm starting to understand something else Naruhodo-san goes through. Like it or not, minds are want to blank.
It's not surprising, really. It's your first time in this position, and in that guise. Even a bright spark like you is bound to flicker and falter a little under the circumstances. Oh dear, this is a dismal future. Don't fret. You need only use the knowledge you've gained as a judicial assistant to overcome the problem.
Court record. I'm hitting the button on purpose this time. Of course, the court record!
Yes, the answer will be amongst all the key information about the case in the court record. That's right, just use R to open the court record. I'm hitting the button, Then you need to flip to the people section with R. And don't take too long over it. His Excellency is watching you closely.
Alright, check the court record with R. That's where the information I need will be.
Oh, the victim? Jeziel Brett. The victim of the case, who was a former British exchange student. 9 months ago, she was found guilty of murder of visiting professor Dr. John Wilson. I'm waiting, counsel. What is the name of the victim in this case? Jeziel Brett.
Yes!
The name of the victim who lost her life in this case is Miss Jeziel Brett.
Jeziel Brett.
A name that will never be forgotten in the courtrooms of our country, I'm sure. Correct. And being a member of our empire's judiciary, you will be well aware of the significance of that name. So, let me pose another simple question. As you know, Miss Brett was a visiting student from the Empire of Great Britain. Why then is her name indelibly associated with your own empire's judicial history? Obviously, you won't have forgotten that case from 9 months ago. But if it's proving hard to recall the finer points, everything you need is included in the court record.
Obviously, I still remember. That's the wrong voice. It's like I'm back in the first game, complaining about how I can't read and can't keep the voices straight. Well, actually, I've been doing that the entire thing. Jeziel Brett. Oh, wait, Jeziel Brett. Behind the woman student's persona was the face of a killer.
Yes!
9 months ago, a visiting professor of medicine at the Imperial Yume University was killed. And the culprit was Jeziel Brett. Yes, she was a killer. At the time, our country... I don't know who's talking here. At the time, our country had just signed a new treaty with the Empire of Great Britain. And it was in the midst of this delicate diplomatic situation that the incident occurred. An Englishman, Dr. John H. Wilson, was shot dead. I believe he was an associate of yours, Professor Mikitova? Yes, I was indebted to the man. He'd been my mentor when I went to London to study forensic medicine. Indeed, it was I who invited him here to Japan as a visiting professor at the university. Naturally, the murder of an Englishman on our soil was a matter the government wished to resolve rapidly. Indeed it was, which is why a secret trial was conducted here at the Supreme Court. A student of the Imperial Yume University was arrested on suspicion of murder. A second-year English language student by the name of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. With the help of his best friend, a student lawyer, the accused conducted his own defense and exposed the despicable crime committed by Miss Jeziel Brett. Miss Brett eventually admitted to her crime. However, when questioned about the motive that drove her to take Dr. Wilson's life, she gave no satisfactory answer before the trial reached its conclusion.
Immediately after the trial, the British government brought its consular jurisdiction into play. We were unable to sentence Miss Brett according to our empire's laws. It was decided that she would be removed from Shanghai, removed to Shanghai, China instead. Why Shanghai? There's a British British consular court there. Correct. I oversaw the negotiations personally. The date of her transfer to Shanghai was finally settled upon only last week. All that remained of our empire's obligations was to see the woman safely on board a steamship. And yet, the very day before her departure, the Englishwoman was killed. Only the day before? I see. So she was about to be set free. Probably someone, who... Wait a minute. Only the day before her departure. Why is this trial only just now happening? Well, anyway. The day before her departure. So it has to be someone who was pissed that she was likely going to be getting off the hook. Well, off the hook. She was likely never going to be allowed to return to Japan again. But when it's not even your home country. That will do. I'm satisfied that the counsel for the defense is sufficiently capable of representing the defendant. Oh. Thank you, Your Excellency. Over the first hurdle. Now, a summary of the incident, if you please. Prosecutor Ouchie. As is your wish, Your Excellency. The repugnant crime took place on the 11th August in broad daylight. I'm sorry, huh? On the outskirts of the imperial capital, under a bright blue sky, at a secluded bathing spot by the sea. The incident occurred inside a small beach hut erected for bathers to rest or change their clothes. The cause of death was a single stab wound to the posterior abdomen that pierced the victim's lung. Why does she have a smile on her face? An injury which proved fatal. There were two persons alone together in the beach hut at the time of the victim's death. Miss Brett in her bathing attire, and the accused, Ray Membami. Accordingly, there can be no doubt of the accused's guilt, especially when we consider she had a powerful motive. The police arrived rapidly at the scene and promptly arrested the young lady.
Well, that extraordinary description of events leaves me somewhat lost for words, I must say.
That's certainly true. The prosecution's summary was full of words that raise an awful lot of questions. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution counsel on what he said. The bathing spot, being alone together, a powerful motive.
You're clearly exaggerating. Powerful motive is a blatant overstatement.
Tut tut tut. Is the yokel boy using long words he doesn't fully understand?
I beg your pardon?
No matter. Let us put this to the accused, shall we? Membami-san. Are you a research assistant at the Imperial Yume University, I believe? Yes, I am. I'm working with Professor Mikotoba in his laboratory at the moment.
I can confirm that the defendant is an excellent assistant with a strong sense of responsibility.
Fascinating to hear. Now, another question. Prior to your work with Professor Mikotoba, whose research were you assisting then? I was studying under Dr. John H. Wilson.
Dr. John Wilson? The visiting English professor who was murdered by Miss Brett 9 months ago?
The accused has a deep-seated respect for her former mentor, Dr. Wilson. Is that not true? Yes, Dr. Wilson was a wonderful man. Interesting. Then tell the court what deep-seated feelings you had towards the Englishwoman who killed him. Well, obviously I was filled with hatred for what she'd done. A powerful hatred. Oh no, Ray! Be careful what you're saying! Huh. The motive was revenge. Plain and simple, Your Excellency.
Well, it was clearly a trap all along. How wicked of him to use Ray's undenying respect for a former mentor against her like that.
I must find out more details, and something we can use to bolster our defense. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution counsel on what he said.
Okay, why were they alone together? I guess I picked the wrong thing. Membami-san.
Yes, what is this? Naruhodo-san.
I'm really starting to wish we'd made an alias Ryotaro Susato. Please tell the court why exactly you were present at the bathing spot with the victim in the first place, and why you were alone with her. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the uniform. Maybe it's the fact that she has like her arms behind her back. The animation for her right here seems kind of robotic.
Oh, well, no, that's not true. It wasn't like that at all. There were other people present. A detective who was guarding Miss Brett for starters. I was just asked to accompany Miss Brett as a companion, that's all.
Why, though? One, why would you be asked? Two, why would you accept?
But let us be clear. At the moment of her death, you were alone together with the victim in the hut. You and no one else. The truth is, there is only one reason why this young woman accompanied Miss Brett on her bathing sojourn. It was the accused's last chance to take the victim's life.
No!
Because, as we know, the following day would see Miss Brett extradited to the British authorities in Shanghai. And the accused would never have an opportunity to dispatch her again.
Kindly refrain from conjecture, counsel.
Tish.
The prosecution counsel seems to enjoy using provocative tricks like that. But for now, at least, we need to assemble more facts. Try not to let him goad you.
Oh dear, this is really terrifying. The father's right. We need more information. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution's counsel and what he said about...
Yeah. So, I just failed completely to pick up on this. If I may, Prosecutor Ouchie.
What do you want, a fresh-faced young yokel student?
I wonder, could you please explain, you mentioned a bathing spot.
Ha! My apologies. Clearly my modernity has confused the poor country bumpkin's simple mind. Bathing spots are the very latest trend in health practices from the West. We are told that bathing in the water of the ocean is curative, therapeutic, and excellent for the skin's...
No, that's not what I meant. I was referring to the fact that Miss Brett had, to all intents and purposes, been found guilty of murder. I'm sorry, had been found guilty of murder, okay. Why would a known criminal have been relaxing by the sea? That is also very true. Why was... For old time's sake, I believe. I'm sorry?
Miss Brett was to depart for Shanghai the following day. Her final wish, as it were, was to enjoy a day at our country's wonderful coast.
Why was she... Okay, whatever.
And the British Embassy put extreme pressure on our government to comply.
Well, that explains it. But on what grounds would we agree to such a request? Because, as usual, our government is unable to stand up to foreign powers. In matters of diplomacy, it seems we don't have the courage to decline the whims of a known criminal.
Don't look at me, Professor! It was the government who granted permission, not I! In any case, it was decided that with a dedicated detective on duty, nothing could go wrong.
But in fact, a murder took place.
I said don't look at me! It was that young student girl who did it, not I!
No one has proved that yet. I wouldn't provoke the man if you don't need to. I'm very sorry, I'm trying to get the... I believe we all have a clear picture of the incident now. I've spent too much time on this text box. Despite her guilt being determined 9 months ago, Miss Britt managed to avoid incarceration, instead continuing her research work at the university. Obviously, over that period, she and Ray would have encountered each other on a number of occasions. Seeing the murder of the mentor for whom she had such great respect enjoying such undeserved liberty... Yes, even if it was only temporary until Miss Brett's extradition to Shanghai. You can hardly blame Ray for her feelings of anger and resentment. Poor Ray.
So, Your Excellency, if you'd be so kind as to peruse this exhibit, a photographic print that shows the scene of the crime immediately following the grim incident.
Am I gonna have to just record? Okay, never mind. I was gonna say, am I gonna have to record and censor this? But no. No. We're good. Yes, thank you, Counsel. A tragic image.
As you can clearly see, there is nowhere within the hut that anyone else could have hidden.
I don't know, maybe behind the dress? The court will accept this photographic print as evidence. Is there anything on the back I should know about? Hold on, is there anything on the back I should know about? No, okay. As I understand it then, the victim and the defendant were alone inside the beach hut at the time. This is deeply troubling, I must say. The finger of guilt points firmly at the defendant.
Well, Your Excellency, naturally the prosecution has much more to its case. We intend to prove the accused's appalling actions beyond all possible contention. To that end, I can confirm that we have multiple witnesses to the crime and damning evidence.
Witnesses? But who?
If there are witnesses, then there are other people who could have done it. One of whom, I might add, is a highly respected police detective. I assure you, the testimony of these witnesses will leave no room for doubt.
One second, I'm just opening up my drink. We're 40 minutes in and we haven't gotten to the trial proper. Very well then, counsel. Bring forth your witnesses.
Taketsushi Ouchi have been waiting for this moment.
Sorry?
Oh yes, I haven't forgotten that trial 9 months ago, here in this very courthouse, when that irreverent little student boy utterly humiliated me. Ah! You no say Naruhodo!
What? Yes, he wasn't wearing that at the time. He had a mouse on his shoulder. Okay, at first I thought it was cool. Well, it still does look cool.
This insult to the Ouchi family name will never be forgotten!
You've become conceited with age, counsel, but the old have to stand aside and make way for the new. It's the way of the world. May you never forget that.
Strike the head of a samurai whose top knot has been cut, and the bell of cultural enlightenment tolls. Yes, on that fateful day, my former self died.
The start of your own mini Meiji revolution. Are you modernizing as well, Council?
Silence! Since I swore revenge back then, there has been a minor miracle atop my head. Observe the ouchy growth. You see this seed of hope sprouting from the barren expanse of my crown?
I think that tiny growth is trying to tell me something. I'm afraid I can't really see. Where is the hope exactly?
I said silence!
Today I face another yokel student from the Naruhodo clan. Well,
I will vanquish you! And my victory will be fertilizer for the seed of hope atop my head. You have been warned! With that, the prosecution calls the witnesses to the stand.
It looks like the stakes are high on both sides in this trial. The prosecution and defense each has much to lose. A haircut is hardly comparable to Rei's life. What are you wearing?
Witnesses, please say your name and occupations for the court.
What are you wearing? Chief Inspector, I don't remember the name again. Chief Inspector Satoru Hasanaga, Imperial Police Bureau. I'm in disguise, obviously, so I can go undetected. He has a terrible fucking disguise. Is that a turtle on your head? And I am, well, the next big thing in books. An author renowned throughout the capital, in fact. Yes. Soon to be sold out! This is satirical! I am a cat! A sensational success! Prices of Soseki Natsume! Oh my goodness! Struggling student from the provinces, please! You needn't be in awe of me. I needn't? It's only natural that you'd feel nervous in my presence. But all of you, please relax. I am Soseki. Call me Soseki even. Yes. What on earth is Soseki-san doing here? How long was she? This had to have just happened. It took 9 months? It took 9 months to get this stuff settled. 9 months. Okay. Tread carefully, Sasato. That author fellow knows you from your time in London, doesn't he? If he exposes you for who you really are, this will be over before it's begun. Yes, of course, I know. I presume Sasaki-san won't have forgotten about me. I could certainly never forget him. Although he does seem to have changed somewhat in the 6 months or so that it's been since I last saw him. And as for Inspector Hasanaga, that amazing outfit... Oh, that's one way to put it! That is one way to put it! I would not agree with putting it that way, but it is one way to put it. Is the turtle scowling at me, or is that my imagination? Do I have something on my face? Well, your glasses for one, although they don't seem to be helping you see. Thank goodness he hasn't recognized me either. Ah, I suppose it's a disguise, is it? I thought that appearing here in the clothes I was wearing at the time would make for a more faithful testimony. It is my guiding principle to carry out all testimonies flawlessly. Well, I can appreciate why an Imperial Police Bureau detective might have been present. But what business did a writer such as yourself have being at the scene, Soseki-san? Ah, well, you see, I had been asked that day to give a lecture. On the morning of the incident, in the Imperial Yume University's Grand Lecture Hall, no less. So why were you on the beach? At Yume University? Didn't mean to open the court record.
After the lecture, I had a very pleasant conversation with a researcher from the medical science department. The professor over there, in fact.
My with Professor Mikitoba? Yes, that's right. It was arranged by one of the newspapers. They wanted some story or other about two former students who studied in Great Britain.
Of course, being a renowned author, the press never leave me alone.
The secretly spy snapshots! They secretly spy snapshots, scribble stories, and scupper my privacy! As you can see, a conversation was written up in this newspaper here.
Read it at your leisure, my professional, struggling student friend. I have plenty of copies.
Thank you very much.
He practically threw that paper at me.
Alright, the Soseki Natsume article has been entered into the court record. A newspaper containing an article about a discussion between my father and Soseki-san. The debate became quite spirited. But time to read it.
Anyway, following my interview with the professor,
I'll read this first. I do not speak Japanese. I cannot read any of this.
Wait.
What's this cat doing here? Didn't, like, Sholmes and Iris adopt that cat? I thought he left. Oh no, wait, now I remember. Now I remember. It was the credits. He left the cat in England, but he took the kittens with him. Okay, now I remember. Alright.
The lady in question appeared and made a very unexpected announcement. I should like to go with everyone to see our country's coast.
Those were her words! As I explained before, Miss Brett was never taken into custody. She continued to work in my laboratory under strict surveillance, of course.
She was never... Why was she never put into custody?
At which utterance, the university immediately contacted the government to seek guidance. And the response was, permit Miss Brett to go as long as a detective accompanies her.
A detective I am at liberty to divulge was me, Chief Inspector Satoru Hasanaga.
But weren't you on the boat with me and Kazuma in 2? Or were you, or, what happened? For the, what was it, fucking 10 days? That there had to have been, at least, between him accompanying Kazuma and him going back after Kazuma was killed? Thereby, the entire party departed cordially for the seaside, it seems.
It was extremely challenging to clear all other members of the public from the vicinity of the beach.
Still coughing up blood, I see.
But fortunately, I am at peak physical fitness at the moment, so
no, you're not.
I was able to carry out my duty flawlessly.
Oh my! Inspector, you... Well, you do have something on your face now.
How unsightly. I do apologize.
Does that mean that you went to the beach too, Father? No. Fortunately, I had work to finish off. But unfortunately, of course, it meant that as my assistant, Ray was invited to take my place. Okay, so that explains why she was there.
Of course, being a renowned author, I didn't like to decline the invitation.
Ah, but if only I had! I'd never have seen that awful sight! Relentlessly racked by remorse and regret! Very well, I must now ask you to present your formal testimony to the court. You will give an account of all you witnessed on your impromptu excursion to the coast.
Of course, Your Excellency. Relentlessly racked by remorse and regret, I am.
Witness testimony. The witness scene.
A On the day of the incident, I was ordered on a special surveillance assignment in this disguise. I just managed to catch that crab when I suddenly heard a caterwaul from behind me. I ran into the beach hut at once, where I found the pair in question. Yes, yes, yes! That young girl was astride the English woman, dagger in hand, as she stabbed wildly! Hold on. Sorry. That young girl was astride the English woman, the dagger in hand, as she was stabbed wildly. So that would imply more than once. Only a single wound was identified. I saw the blood on the blade. It proved to me that she stabbed the victim multiple times? That's really what they're going with. Indeed, it does appear from the testimony that both witnesses here present saw it. The very moment of the heinous crime. What? Now, if you will recall, I promised evidence as well. What phrase did I use again? Ah, yes, that was it. Damning evidence. One thing I'm gonna do real fast. Just opening the door for reasons. What have you there, Counsel? A so-called fountain pen, is it? Correct, Your Excellency. I found it at the scene whilst examining the body. It appears that in her dying moments, with her final ounce of strength, the victim clutched a piece of evidence that would positively identify her killer. What? Your Excellency, if you would cast your eyes over the photographic print of the crime scene once more. Yep, you can see it in her hand. Oh, goodness me! Yes, the victim is clearly grasping something quite deliberately there in her hand. That's right, the fountain pen. And if you would kindly examine the pen, Your Excellency. Oh! The owner's initials have been engraved into the ebony barrel. R.M. Ray Membami. The initials of the defendant! No! This fountain pen will be admitted immediately as critical evidence. The fountain pen has been entered in the court record. The pen that the victim was found grasping in her hand carries the initials RM. So, have I omitted anything? Let me see. Why can't I examine it? Decisive testimony and damning evidence. There's a bright blue sky outside the courthouse today. Perfect weather to ascribe guilt, I feel. Is she gonna do the same face? Please have her do the same face. Ryunosuke does when he comes up from that. I don't understand. The prosecutor Ouchie of 9 months ago had none of this man's poise. Counsel for the defense, you may begin your cross-examination now. Naruhodo-san! Naruhodo. That means... Oh! Yes! Me! Is there another Naruhodo in my courtroom? Actually, there isn't even a single Naruhodo in your courtroom. Cousin Ryotaro, pull yourself together. Alright. I've seen this countless times as a judicial assistant. Find inconsistencies in the witness testimonies to prove that they're lying somehow. That's all there is to it. That's all a real lawyer would that's how a real lawyer would handle a cross-examination. So let's see what I can do.
The witness seem. I already know what to do. Hold on. No. Let me. Oh, unread text. Okay, so I do have to wait.
Objection!
With that accusatory cry that just welled up from deep inside me, I think I finally understand. Every time Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san have stood here at this bench, the stakes have been very, very high indeed. What is the meaning of that menacing pose, Counsel?
I'd like the witness to clarify something for me.
Who? What? Where? When? How?
Not you, Sasaki-san. This query is directed at Inspector Hasanaga.
At me?
In your statement just now, you said that the victim was stabbed multiple times.
Yes, that's right. As I said, when I entered the hut, the defendant was already standing over the victim, bloody knife in hand, like a murderous demon.
And yet, that cannot be.
What?
Get to the point, please, Counsel. In the post-mortem report, it clearly states that the victim was stabbed one time only. Oh! In other words, Inspector Hasanaga's testimony is clearly flawed. And so Seki-san.
Me?
You claim to have seen Membami-san in the throes of stabbing the victim.
Yes, I did! Wildly!
But both you and the inspector confirmed the same point, that there was already blood on the knife that you saw the defendant holding.
Yes, and?
It's quite simple. We know the murder weapon was used to stab the victim only once. Therefore, there is no way there could have been blood on the knife if that single stabbing hadn't already occurred.
True!
Then what exactly is your contention, Counsel? Are you ever going to tell us? Yes, Your Excellency. There's only one logical conclusion. What Sasaki-san in fact saw was not the moment that the defendant stabbed the victim at all, but the moment that the defendant in fact withdrew the blade from the victim's body. One second. No, never mind. Excellent work, Susato. You exploded at them without objection and then proceeded to pull them apart systematically.
Objection! Well, this takes me back. Yes, I seem to remember your cousin staged a scene much like this in that trial 9 months ago. A half-witted child with a half-baked objection, attempting to steal the show.
You're right. There were certain similarities. Except that so-called half-witted child managed to outwit the prosecution, who has only half a head of hair.
Slander! My head is quite adequately dressed! In any case, all of this all the shock of stabbing and withdrawing and multiple wounds, it makes not a jot of difference. What? Why not? Engage your brain, young man. When the accused first plunged a deadly weapon into the victim, that was the fatal blow. And it was at that moment, just as she had withdrawn the blade, ready for her next strike, that the witnesses saw the knife was already tainted with blood because the accused had already stabbed the victim. Huh. All you have successfully shown with your little display is that the mustache author is prone to moments of extravagance. I
am in agreement with the prosecution. If the defendant was seen wielding the blade at all, that is sufficient grounds for her actions to be viewed with suspicion.
But if she was withdrawing the blade, then we are back where we started.
Sorry?
Consider this, young yokel boy. If the student girl is innocent as you claim, then why would she have pulled the blade from the victim? And with a demon's cold-blooded composure, too. The prosecution demands an explanation, and it had better be good.
Maybe she just didn't know that, like, withdrawing the blade would effectively let her bleed out. Why did Ray pull out the knife? Ah, yes. Going for the jugular.
What does Father mean by that?
Let the court hear your answer then, counsel.
The truth is, I don't really know. But I have to come up with a plausible reason here, or we don't have a case.
The reason why the defendant pulled the knife blade out of the victim's body was surely so she could stab her again, save her life, hide the knife. Save her life. According to the post-mortem report, the victim's death was not instant. That's correct. It's thought she would have remained conscious for a short while after sustaining the injury.
Indeed, giving her the time to take hold of this piece of evidence that clearly indicates her killer.
The point is, being a medical research assistant, Membami-san was compelled to act when faced with the wounded victim. Instinctively, she pulled the knife out in an attempt to save Miss Brett's life. Except, yeah, I'm starting to see that is a... Yeah, never mind. I don't even know why I chose that, never mind.
It would seem this is the best we can expect of this young yokel.
Indeed. Is it just me, or does it suddenly feel much colder in here? I probably should have saved, because that's an actual strike. Your Excellency, if I may. Speak, witness. I would like another opportunity to testify. Or maybe not. I mean, apparently we're getting more testimony. In respect to the slipshod assertion put forward by the yokel's defense counsel, I mean.
Slipshod?
Just, an excellent idea, Inspector. Our young yokel, hopeful has a modicum of knowledge when it comes to the law, it seems. Yeah, so basically, it's not a good idea to remove the knife, because the knife acts like a plug, kind of. Like, yeah, the damage is still there, but you can prevent bleeding out, effectively.
But in matters of medicine, he appears to possess not one iota of common sense.
Very well, Inspector, I will permit your requests. You will testify again before the court on the subject of the defense counsel's assertion. Yes, sir. I will do so flawlessly. Maybe I won't get a strike. Pulling a blade from a wound without thinking could cause heavy bleeding. That's basic knowledge that any medical research assistant with an ounce of sense ought to know. In other words, there's no good reason why the defendant would have tried to pull the knife from the victim. Let's not forget that the young student did have a motive for killing the victim.
The man the victim murdered 9 months ago, Dr. Wilson, was the defendant's highly respected mentor. Is what you just said true, Inspector? Could pulling a knife from a wound really cause the wound to bleed heavily? Yeah, that is correct. Yes, think of the weapon itself as a stopper in the wound that prevents excessive blood loss. Until a doctor is ready to provide proper treatment, that stopper shouldn't be removed. Maybe she was going to give treatment. That is true. Maybe she was going to give treatment. Oh, I see. She is a medical research assistant. Maybe she thought she could do it. Well, actually, now that I think about it, she would have been the best candidate to do it, actually. Because from what I understand, no one else there had any medical knowledge at all. Ha! This is why Yoko should stay on the farm. Even a quack from some obscure mountain village would have such basic knowledge. Anyone who's ever given someone a little poke with a knife and pulled it out again knows. A little poke? What the fuck? Oh, well, I've never stabbed anyone, you see, or pulled a blade out of a wound, so... Of course you haven't. I didn't bring you up to behave like a bandit. Father, Father, is it true what they're telling me? Yes, it's basic, remedial knowledge for medics. Ray would have been well aware of it. If she were to claim ignorance of such fundamentals, that would prove fatal in many ways. But then, why would Ray have done it? Could she have pulled out that knife in full knowledge that it would be fatal for Miss Brett? I don't know. I mean, I imagine a knife that's pierced along is gonna be fatal either way. Maybe what she thought she could do was that she could save her somehow. And and again, she would be the most qualified person at the scene. Well, closest to qualified, I should say. Ray never once mentioned anything about the knife to me. It seems almost impossible to believe, but could my friend actually have... Susato! Yes? Pull yourself together. We mustn't lose sight of why we're here. Ah! Counsel, it's time for your cross-examination. Oh, yes, Your Excellency. However, I must warn you that if your cross-examination fails to identify an issue with the established facts, I will be moving my adjudication immediately afterwards. I understand. Believing in your clients and fighting for their cause until the bitter end. I knew it would be hard, but I had no idea it would be this hard. One quick second, actually. One very, very quick second. I have to make disgusting sinus noises. Sorry about that. So, press everything at this point. You say doing it without thinking could be a problem. Does that mean if you use due care and attention, it would be alright? I wouldn't have thought this needed spelling out, really, but the blade is like a stopper in the wound. Remove it and a serious hemorrhage will occur. In other words, a medic would need to be present before any attempt was made to withdraw the blade. Doing it without thinking would be madness. You just can't do it.
Oh, well, thank you for such a thorough explanation.
You see, Counsel, when you act without thinking, the result is a bloodbath.
Back to the witness testimony, please.
Hold it!
In that case, there's an obvious explanation here. Which is... clearly, the defendant, Ray Membami, does not... I was gonna say... she realized she was the most qualified person to help Miss Brett, and I don't have an ounce of medical knowledge in me at all. So, I don't know if maybe she knew that if she... I don't know. Maybe... what I'm trying to say is that maybe... I don't know. But maybe even if the knife was still in there, she would have died before a proper doctor could get to her. And her being the only one with any medical knowledge at all would make her the closest qualified person at the scene. What do you think about that, Professor Mikasoba? I'm not sure that you should be labeling your best friend as lacking in common sense. Well, I thought it would be better than labeling her as a murderer.
I don't know young people today. If that's friendship, I don't understand it.
Careful, Counsel. A lack of common sense can be a very dangerous thing.
Oh dear, that recoiled on me rather badly.
That's life, I'm afraid. A lesson everyone must learn. Hopefully you can see now that this is really basic medical knowledge. Being involved in medical research meant Bami-san would certainly have been aware of it. In other words, there's no good reason why the defendant would have tried to pull the knife from the victim.
Hold it!
But the defendant had suddenly encountered somebody she knew lying on the ground bleeding to death. The sight could have shocked her delicate sensibilities, causing her to remove the blade inadvertently. That's true, but I'm sticking with... I mean, for the moment, I'm sticking with my... Didn't mean to pull the court record. I'm sticking to my defense that she probably thought that a real medic probably couldn't get there in time, that she was the closest to qualified person at the scene. I really don't think inadvertent actions can explain this. The woman is a medical research assistant. I can't imagine she would behave so irrationally. Oh, but irrational behavior... I'm not saying that. Oh dear, you have a lot to learn about women. Only a small-minded man could have such bigoted views. I mean, I agree, but I see the irony here. Oh dear, perhaps I'm letting my male persona take a hold a little too much. Well, I have managed to convey the basics now. That should cover the medical side of the argument. Let's not forget that the young student did have a motive for killing the victim.
Hold it!
Boomer! I think that was my dog scratching behind his ear while leaning against the cage. Whatever the motive, it just isn't Membani-san's nature to do something so awful. But she had both motive and opportunity. That's very hard to argue against. But you don't know the defendant!
Objection!
And you, Counsel, do not appear to know the law.
Yes, evidence is the only way to convince the court of your argument, not feelings.
With this fledgling to defend her, I would almost say I pity the accused.
So do I. Inspector, you will reiterate your point about the defendant's motive, please.
Ah, yes, Miss Brett was in many ways a sworn enemy of Mambami-san. The man the victim murdered 9 months ago, Dr. Wilson, was the defendant's highly respected mentor.
Hold it!
Well, yes, that's true. Dr. Wilson recognized Mambami-san's talent and offered her the position of assistant despite her being a woman. She was extremely grateful to him. Yes, the Englishman appears to have been a very broad-minded individual. Dr. Wilson had no time for outdated traditions. He met with opposition, of course, but he believed firmly in Mambami-san's abilities. Clearly the defendant was in the man's debt, which only serves to prove my point. This is hopeless. I can't find a single crack in the testimony anywhere. If we knew that withdrawing the knife from the wound would threaten Miss Brett's life further, I just can't think of any way to explain why she did it. Susato, it's at times like these when it's when it's especially important to remember the fundamentals. The fundamentals? Evidence is what counts in the courtroom, isn't it? Of course, but I've been through the court record dozens of times already. I think perhaps you're forgetting something, though. You needn't take the evidence at face value. You can and must explain it in greater detail, too. Ah! I realize this is your first time playing the role of a lawyer in the courtroom, so if you need reminding of the rudiments, you need only ask. I'll do my very best to help. Examine the evidence in the court record? It's an idea, certainly. What should I do? Let's see here. Wait a minute. Oh no! I thought this was the knife here. That's just the heel of her shoe. I think I see footsteps, but it's too, a little too dark and not enough contrast for me to really figure it out. Can I examine the pen? I cannot examine the pen. Okay. I can examine this further, actually. Constriction. I'm gonna look this up actually, and it's on the other screen, which is my TV. 1 second. Okay, I'm back. I'm actually gonna look up meiosis. Is it just like, the eye is... I mean, is it just like the dilation of the eye that, like, naturally happens in light and dark and whatever? Excessive constriction of the pupil of the eye. Thank you. That didn't help me. I believe the pupil opens in the dark and constricts in the light. So that means that she would have to be... I mean, her head at the very least would have had to be... Wait a minute. Both? In both eyes? So she would have had to have been
face up. But how and when do I prove? Well, I know how to prove it. I just did. So she was face up when I'm assuming she first hit, and someone flipped her over for some reason. Though, I don't see how that has any relevance to this. I'm gonna ask for a refresher. Yes, Father, Spartan guidance is what I need. I think that might be overdoing it slightly, but I will admit I'm at a loss here. I mean, I still have the revelation about her having been on her back when she fell to the floor and then flipped over. Very well, so open the court record first. Is that all you're gonna fucking tell me? Now let's take a look at the fountain pen, which was... What?! Fuck you, game! Now I'm allowed to examine it! Now I'm allowed to examine it! Now I am allowed to fucking examine it! God damn it! Yeah, I know all this! I swear I wasn't even allowed to examine it, like, before I answered that question. What the actual fuck? Oh, what's this? There's some sort of emblem here, look! But isn't it a Yume University one? It must belong to some other organization, I suppose. A business of some kind? But that would seem to imply that the pen doesn't in fact belong to Ray. So it doesn't belong to Ray. Okay, that's cool, but that doesn't help me. Oh. Ah! This was the first thing I thought of when I saw this. Can I look at it in 3 dimensions? Apparently not until this very specific moment. God fucking damn it. God. If the game had just let me examine this stuff like this 10 minutes ago, this wouldn't be a problem. The game purposefully didn't let me examine it like this. Just to leave me stumped. Just so it could remind me to do this. Forgetting, in fact, that maybe I played, you know, other Ace Attorney games. Or maybe even just the first Great Ace Attorney. I mean, you shouldn't assume all players have played, like, the first game when it's a sequel. But still, something for the people who already know what they're doing. What's on the back side? This is a newspaper from Soseki-san. There seems to be an important article on the back page as well. Exclusive! Deadly poison stolen from Yume Medical Research Laboratory. From Yume's Medical Research. Father? Isn't that your lab? What the? Let me see that! The poison's been stolen?! It's this morning's paper that Soseki-san gave us. Are you saying you didn't know? As embracing as that is for the head of the laboratory, I didn't. I've not heard any such thing. Where on earth could the reporter have gleaned his information? Come to think of it, there was no article mentioning this story in our paper this morning, was there? There's no article mentioning the story in our paper this morning. It's a highly toxic poison we've been working on in the strictest confidence. Why, though? I put Ray in charge of the project. Ray? She was managing it? If what's written here is true, it means that she tried to hide the theft from me. And moreover, the details were leaked somehow. I don't believe it! We need to read this article very carefully. Alright, so I'm going to read that. Okay, following lecture at Yume by Soseki Natsume on 11th August, it's come to light that a very disturbing incident took place. A deadly poison being secretly developed at the university's forensic science laboratory was stolen. Even the smallest amount entering the body via the mouth or via a wound from a poison-laced blade would prove fatal in minutes. Current methods cannot detect the newly developed chemical. The university would have to be consulted. Onset symptoms occur in minutes, starting with impaired breathing and ending with acute contraction of the pupils. So that's what it could have been. She was stabbed with a poison knife. It's apparently an entirely new synthesis of alkaloids and rumored to have been commissioned by the military. Question! Game! Question! Why did you not let me examine the newspaper in 3 dimensions until just now? Why? I could have figured this out much sooner and saved a lot of time. I'll never get an answer to that question. I'm gonna skip this because it's just fuck it. Okay.
Objection!
No, there is one possibility. One very good reason why the defendant might have decided to withdraw the knife from the victim's wound. What? Ha! The yokel not only has a poor grasp of the law, but is also a poor loser. Tell us then, what possibility do you think you've identified? It's here, in this newspaper article. An article about a deadly poison having been stolen from a laboratory at Imperial Yume Unit.
Objection!
The victim perished from a stab wound. Poison has no relevance in this case. But, Prosecutor Ouchie, you will let the defense speak. But a newspaper article! The court cannot rely on the kind of hearsay those wretched publications carry. Counsel for the defense? I am going to need some tangible basis for your claim. You will indicate to the court precisely what part of the newspaper article mentioned affirms your assertion. Your Excellency! Yes, of course. Thank you. Ray would never have done something to further endanger Miss Brett's life without just cause. The reason why the defendant pulled the knife from the victim's body is explained in the article where it says,
Deadly in tiny quantities. Let me actually read that. Deadly in tiny quantities. The article reveals the following property about the poison in question. When the toxin enters the body on a knife laced with the poison, it's rapidly absorbed and causes death in minutes. Are you suggesting if the knife used to attack Miss Brett was laced with this very poison, it would explain why the defendant, Mambani-san, would have withdrawn the blade as soon as possible. Yes, the truth is, it was an attempt to stop the poison from entering the victim's body. What?
Objection!
This is complete and utter nonsense! Not at all. The defendant withdrew the knife blade from the victim's body to not accelerate the woman's demise, but to save her life. And the prosecution cannot deny the possibility. Have you not read the postmortem report? The cause of death was a hemorrhage. The word poison appears nowhere in the document. Well, that's because by acting quickly to remove the blade, the defendant prevented the poison from taking hold.
Objection!
Oh please! This is clearly desperation. The weasel's last breaking of wind. Poison has nothing whatsoever to do with this case, as I believe the defense is well aware. We have no proof that the information in this wretched newspaper article is at all reliable in any way. I mean, we could ask Mikitova right here. In that situation, what the student should have done is wait for medical assistance to arrive. Well, again, maybe it wouldn't have arrived in time. Maybe she thought medical assistance wouldn't have arrived in time. That would make her then the closest to qualified person on the scene. I've said this numerous times. But instead, you claim she suspected poisoning and took the potentially lethal decision to remove the blade. She must have had a strong reason for her suspicions then, or the argument makes no sense. Exactly! Well, Inspector, on what grounds did she do it? Yokel? Why did Ray suspect the stolen poison was involved? If you want grounds... I'm sorry, I'm playing with the door. I shouldn't be playing with the door. I'll give you grounds. What? You can't possibly... Let me just... Where is it? Why is the poison being developed? From your expression, counsel, it would appear those are not empty words. But naturally, as you stand in this courtroom as a lawyer, you must be aware that words alone, empty or not, are of no value in our modern justice system. The court demands evidence. Yes, Your Excellency, I'm well aware of that. I've seen it many times from my place at his side in the Old Bailey. In that case, counsel, you will present the proof to the court now. What evidence demonstrates a clear link between this case and the poison in the news article? I'm gonna say it because it could be two things. It could be the autopsy report, or it could be the article itself. I'm going to go with the autopsy report for this first attempt.
Take that!
I would ask the court to refer to the notes section of the postmortem report, which reads, extreme meiosis, pupil constriction, was observed in the victim. Clearly being a yokel with no knowledge of forensic science, I have no idea, so please do tell me. Presumably, the fact that this condition of the victim was noted in the postmortem report means that it's an unusual symptom of death?
Well, under normal circumstances, the pupils dilate when someone dies. If there was an extreme constriction instead, that's most certainly unusual. Yes, I see. What are you doing, you yokel detective? In the newspaper article, there's the following information about the stolen poison. Onset of symptoms occurs in minutes, ending with acute constriction of the pupils prior to death. What? If the defendant, upon seeing the victim stabbed in the back, happened to notice that the pupils of Miss Brett's eyes had constricted severely, yes, as a medical research assistant, she would have suspected poison immediately, without doubt. Prosecutor Ouchie, I think you'll agree. This is very compelling evidence. This is you yokel student and yokel professor! I believe the defense has expertly demonstrated a credible reason for the defendant's actions. No. Eugen Mikotoba. Yes, Your Excellency? I believe you are best placed here to confirm or deny the veracity of the defense counsel's argument. You will tell the court the truth about the details reported in this newspaper, please. It pains me to have to admit it, but I'm afraid I don't know. You don't know? The toxin was kept under lock and key in my laboratory, certainly, but I was unaware of any theft. Do you mean to tell the court that the reports of this theft are unfounded? No, Your Excellency. Without returning to the laboratory to investigate myself, I couldn't say. Ha! Listen to the bumbling academic! Unaware of the theft of secret state research from his own workplace until he reads it in the newspaper. I take full responsibility for my incompetence of my supervision. Father. A pitiful situation from a university professor. You should have more control over your students, rather than allowing them off on killing sprees. That's totally unfounded. What are you doing, Ray? None of this is Professor Mikotoba's fault. It's all my fault. Ray, Nambami-san, you stand accused here. Outbursts like this will not be tolerated. But it was me. I was the one who noticed that the poison we were developing had been stolen that day. What? So you knew? I'd been placed in charge of overseeing the project. It was the day that the professor and Sasaki-san were interviewed together for the interview of the newspaper. That's when I noticed that some of the poison was missing, just the tiny amount it was. Why didn't you let me know immediately? I was scared. The whole project was supposed to be confidential, but some of the toxin had somehow been taken. So I decided I'd try to get it back before anyone else found out. Because I had a very good idea of who the thief was. Really? Well, this is something we'd like to hear. The thief, you don't mean... Yes, of course. It was that dainty English woman. Miss Jeziel Brett? That's why I decided to join the little group of people going to the seaside. Inside the beach hut, I confronted Miss Brett. But she just sat on a stool at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly at me, as if she knew she was untouchable. I know it was you who stole the poison. Well now, whatever do you mean? It's been so long I don't even remember the voice I gave Brett. And then she suddenly got to her feet before falling to her knees in front of me and then collapsing on the floor. That's when I saw the knife in her back. I couldn't understand what had just happened. And then, a moment later, I seized with fear. The pupils of her eyes they'd shrunk to tiny pinpoints.
I don't believe it. In other words, you realized that the victim was suffering the effects of the stolen poison.
My mind started racing. I hadn't seen anything past Miss Brett's lips whilst I'd been with her. There's left only one possible way for the poison to have entered her body.
And the blade of the knife in her back. And that train of thought was what spurred you to withdraw the blade.
Yes, if the amount that had entered her bloodstream was small enough, she might still have a chance. That's what I'd hoped. Really, I'm sorry for staying silent all this time.
Your attempt to hide the truth of what happened is not something that can be overlooked. However, I have duly noted the courage with which you confessed in the end.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
It's barely perceptible, but I do think the balance has shifted a little here in this courtroom.
Objection! Your Excellency, do not be deceived. The victim just collapsed before your eyes, you say? Well, Membami-san, if that's the case, perhaps you can explain how Miss Brett came to be stabbed. Well, you have no answer to the simple truth. Is that you stabbed the victim motivated by revenge?
Objection!
But you have no conclusive evidence to prove that assertion, do you?
Oh? I have evidence, and it is very much conclusive, and you're only just now bringing this up.
What's the prosecution counsel up to now? It was brief, but he hesitated for a moment there. I'm almost sure of it. You will produce the aforementioned evidence at once, Professor Ouchie. Prosecutor Ouchie, my bad.
Perhaps some praise is due, young yokel student.
1 second. Boomer! What?
I had imagined there would be no need for me to submit this evidence. But you've brought this on yourself.
That could be her pulling out the blade, not putting it in. You don't know. You really do not know. Based on what we have just established, it is very much possible that that could be her pulling the blade out. Also, if you can just pull open the walls of this hut, then yeah, someone could have easily just stabbed her in the back. Could be more damaging.
Could a more damaging shot exist? The cruelty in the air on that beach is almost palpable. This evidence, more than any other, reveals the true extent of the accused's murderous nature. For it shows the precise moment that Membami-san plunged her dagger into the victim's back.
Or it could be the very moment she was pulling it out.
No, that's not true! No! I don't believe it. Ah!
Order! 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 Counsel for the defense. Was it you who was responsible for that shrill scream that just pierced my courtroom?
Perhaps his voice has yet to break. These yokels are slow of mind and slow to mature. I'll show you who's slow to mature.
Careful now, Susato is starting to show her face here. It is often said that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and here we have ample proof. The court will accept this extremely cogent photograph print as evidence. The incriminating photograph has been entered into the court record. I can't believe he's had a photograph like that up his sleeve this entire time. Okay, game? You are not going to tell me. You're not going to tell me later that I can examine this photo in 3D, are you? I can only view this photograph in 2D, the image itself and nothing more. That is all you are saying to me. It's such a stark image. I'm genuinely lost for words. Wait a minute. Minute? Wait a minute. I don't understand. How did you... I mean, who took that photograph? That's a very good question. Who took it? That's of no importance here. Stop trying to divert attention. No, that's very important. If a photograph is produced, I mean, okay, again, not an actual lawyer, but I would imagine that if a photograph like that was produced in today's courtrooms, that would be a very important question, considering how prevalent Photoshop of all things is.
Objection!
Now, I know they didn't have Photoshop back then. Trust me, I know. But I still say it's important to know. That's an absurd thing to say. It's crucially important. Whoever took this photographic print was a witness to Miss Brett's death. The court must be allowed to hear this person's testimony. I will uphold the defense's demand. The prosecution will reveal the identity of the person responsible for taking this photograph at once. Well, I'm afraid I can't do that. Pardon? You see, this print arrived at the Imperial Police Bureau headquarters by express post yesterday. But there was nothing to indicate the sender's name or address. The provenance of the print is unknown. Goodness! Are we to understand then, counsel, that in full knowledge of the fact that this photograph has the murkiest of origins, you nevertheless believe it fit for submission as evidence in the Supreme Court? When you first produced that print before, I noticed that you hesitated for a brief moment, because you knew that it wasn't completely reliable evidence, didn't you? Silence! You yokel student run and blabbering professor! What matters is the blatant truth that this print so eloquently expresses. That there was a moment in which the defendant had the blade in her hands, which we have just finished figuring out could have just as easily been just her pulling the blade out. God fucking idiot. But the defendant has already admitted to pulling the blade from the wound. Clearly, this isn't the moment that the knife was plunged into the victim's back, but the moment it was withdrawn? Don't waste this court's time with your ramblings. My ramblings are just as valuable as yours right now, sir. Indeed, without knowledge of who produces this print, we have no means of verifying the claim. And the scene it captures is without doubt the most compelling evidence presented to the court. Full of idiots! This courtroom is full of idiots. If the defenses aren't able to shed any further light on the matter, I believe the conclusion is clear. Oh no! Susada, this is the time for you to fight. If what you've established so far is true, then there can be no doubt. This photograph shows the moment that Ray withdrew the blade from the victim. Yes, we just need to prove that somehow. You'll have plenty of time to rue your defeat on the slow train back to the provinces. And to rue the day you came up against Takatsuchi Ouchi in a court of law. If I can't determine who took this photograph, then the trial is going to come to an end. There must be a clue somewhere. There must be some way of working out who took it. The only thing I can see that could maybe prove it is what is this very clearly a crack in the lens. Wait a minute. Well, Counsel? What about that paparazzi that was taking pictures of Soseki? Your Excellency, the burning question is who took that photograph. The truth is, I don't know. Or do we? I'm gonna say, I don't know. No, I just said. No, if I give up now, I'll never be able to look Ray in the eye again. Susato, you need to steel yourself in some of your best. Okay, whatever. I'll do my best. This isn't about whether I can or can't come up with the answer now. I simply have to. The identity of the person who took this dramatic photographic print is, I assure you, something the defense can and will reveal. What? No! You can't possibly! But, as you so boldly claim that you can, please, do enlighten us. Unfortunately, I'm unable to present a name. How utterly underwhelming. Did you really believe you could? However, I am able to present evidence. The defense has a piece of evidence that reveals important details about the photographer's identity. What? Very well then, Counsel. Present your proof to the court. Which piece of evidence reveals something about the identity to, oh. Oh! Duh! I'm an idiot.
Take that!
The piece of evidence in question is this. Is it not that? I'm afraid, Counsel, that when presenting evidence, you must learn to temper those wide, nervous eyes. I mean, clearly it's the pen of whatever organization that's with. Okay. Okay. So clearly my first guess was correct. Also, that's the wrong silhouette. Yada yada yada. Speeding through all this, speeding.
Take that!
The piece of evidence in question is okay. So I'm still off, obviously. So I'm still off. The only other thing I can come up with is the person who stole the poison? Speeding through all this again. So both of my guesses were wrong. The only other thing I can guess is that maybe it's whoever stole the poison.
Take that!
It's still wrong. Can I maybe present a person? Wait a minute. Hold on. I just realized something. Hold on. Yep! Yep. Okay. I got it now. I just thought of that. Yep. So, I'll have to present either the newspaper or hopefully I can just... Can I...
Take that!
Raucous England returnees tell all. It's not the headline that's relevant here, Your Excellency. It's the photograph. I didn't notice that. How did I not notice that? If you look closely, you'll notice that there are some white lines on the right-hand side. Oh, yes indeed. They had already caught my eye, as it happens.
Ha! What of it? A shadow of some kind, presumably, from the branches of a tree or the like.
There are no trees growing inside my laboratory at the university, I can assure you. Now, if you look closely at this photograph... Good gracious! Yes, exactly the same pattern of lines is present on this photograph too!
Objection! Well, that tells us nothing! Ha! Yes! It's a shadow of some kind, definitely, from the branches of a tree!
There wouldn't be any trees growing inside a hut at the beach council. What's quite remarkable about this is that the two patterns are absolutely identical. How could such an extraordinary similarity have transpired? They were taken with the same camera. The curious matching pattern that appears on both photographic prints is a result of a camera defect photographic technique. A camera defect. Obviously, it must be due to a problem with the camera used to take the photographs.
With the photographic device?
Yes, we can confidently say that the camera lenses must be scratched, and that the scratched lenses cause unwanted lines to appear on every print taken with the device. In short, the two photographic prints under consideration here were taken with the same camera.
But there must be hundreds of camera devices here in the capital. It would be utterly impossible to identify the owner of this particular one.
Not really. This is a newspaper we're talking about. We could just get in contact with the newspaper and just be like, yeah, who took this photograph? Or, better yet, Mikatoba's here. He would know the identity of the person who took the picture.
Objection!
I think you're forgetting Professor, not Professor, Prosecutor. Wrong button. Prosecutor Ouchie. That one of the photographs featured in a newspaper article.
A newspaper? Ah!
That's right. The author of that article is the mystery witness to this crime.
What? What?
I have no idea what that how to even pronounce that word. Excuse me. I see why you were called a raucous English attorney.
What are you yelling about? You've already testified. It's mini memo. I tell you, mini memo. Memo.
Sosaki-san? What was that? Did you say memo?
Ever since I returned to Japan, a reporter from Shoyu News has been hounding me, following my every move. A reporter by the name of Reiten Menememo. Yes, hounding me from dawn till dusk.
Ah! Now that he mentions it.
They secretly spy, snapshots, scribble stories, the scupper of my privacy.
I don't see a scratch on it though. Could that same reporter be...
Yeah, he's gone now. A camera to the left of him, a notebook to the right. There I am, stuck in the middle with Reiten Menememo.
So you're saying that this picture was taken by
Menememo? Yes, my lord, your excellency, Esquire.
Officer, find this newspaper reporter at once and bring him to my courtroom. We will adjourn for a short recess in the meantime. Oh, yes, Your Excellency.
As you say, Your Excellency.
And one more thing. I want this knife. Why is it just now being brought to our attention that we have the knife? We have it. We have it. Why is it only now being? Why is it not in the court record? Oh yeah, because that way I can examine it and figure something out. Can't have that. You will solicit the assistance of the Imperial University's medical department for the task. Understood? Meh. Meta memo! To be continued, right on time! Alright, so that was the first Great Ace Attorney 2 stream. We will be coming back to Great Ace Attorney 2 next week at 7 o'clock, assuming everything goes alright with what I do before these streams. But between now and then, I will be streaming Mass Effect 3 Legendary Edition on Saturday at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for both of those, where we'll finally be seeing what the Quarians are up to. We'll be doing that in the next live stream I do. And we'll be continuing this trial next week. So, yeah. I'll see you guys then.